As you guys can see, I am currently locked up in Arkham City. Due to this being on such short notice, I now have to beat Arkham City without any upgrades. But don't worry, Batman taught me a technique for getting out of situations like this. Oh no. Batman also gets captured, which wasn't a part of his plan, but at least he's in Arkham City now. Meet Dr. Strange, the guy who's behind all of Arkham City, and he has a plan to enact a security measure called Protocol 10. We don't know what Protocol 10 is yet, but we will later. He also knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he threatens to reveal his identity, which is kind of a dick move if you ask me. But I mean, he's a supervillain, so I guess he doesn't care. Anyways, Batman begins his escape just like me, and ends up falling over just like me. Although I guess he does have a follow-up to that situation. Anyways, Batman gets released into the Arkham City along with a bunch of other prisoners, and we are immediately taken captive by Penguin and his gang. After waking up, we are thrown into our first combat encounter of the game, where we start off by breaking Penguin's hand, then it's followed up by beating the absolute snot out of Penguin's gang. After the alley fight, we suit up, and the real challenge begins. As a little warm-up, I decided to take out this street group, and boy am I thankful for base kit special combos. Everybody knows that playing this game without critical strikes is basically the equivalent to running into a brick wall. It's not going to end well, so I will be using and abusing these special takedowns. By the way, I hope you guys are a fan of the big level up sign at the top of the screen, because it's staying there the whole time. Anyways, I make my way over to the courthouse, for one, to stop Two-Face, and for two, to save Catwoman. This is the first real fight of the game, and being the first fight, it's also basically the tutorial fight. Since by this point in the story, you already wouldn't have any upgrades, this fight really isn't that different from a normal run. Overall, the fight was very easy, and I think it's going to be a very easy run.
Overruled.
Two-Face goes over to finish the job on Catwoman, but she breaks free and disarms him.
No gun harm? Shame. This is gonna hurt.
2 guns, bitch!
Nah, I'm just kidding. Batman was actually just ore farming the whole time and decided to wait until the last possible second to save Catwoman. After saving Catwoman, Batman questions her about Protocol 10, to which she responds by saying she knows absolutely nothing about it. Right as we think we're at a dead end, a sniper comes along to give us a brand new lead. Batman also saved Catwoman right before her head turns into Swiss cheese, to which I have to ask Batman why are we picking favorites. The bullet leads us all the way to the church, and the funniest scene in the entire game. Harley Quinn is here to tell us that the Joker is very sick after the events of Arkham Asylum, and to introduce us to the very first Predator section of the game. Although to be fair, this one is the tutorial one, so let me just walk you through it real quick. Glide down, take out this guy from above, grapple back up, glide back down behind this guy, take this guy out from behind, grapple back up again, glide behind the final 2 guys, and take him out with a double takedown. Alright, now that that's done, let's investigate the shooter. After getting to the top of the clock tower, we find out that the gun was actually fired remotely from a completely different area. And if you couldn't guess, it was done by the Joker. He also says that the whole clock tower is ready to explode, so we should probably do something about that. Alright, Batman, if there's anything you tell me how to do, it's how to defuse a bomb. So if you give me a few seconds, I think I'll be able to stop this thing from blowing this place sky.
Alfred, I've got a lock on the signal used to remotely control the sniper rifle.
Tracking the signal leads us directly to the steel mill, and after entering through the chimney and crossing through the most OSHA violations I've ever seen in a single workplace, and there is literally molten hot magma on the floor, we make it to our first combat encounter of the steel mill. One thing in this run I tried to do was experiment more with quickfire gadgets, although towards the end of the run I sort of just went back to the good old-fashioned special combo takedowns. Anyways, this combat encounter is pretty easy, and I finished it without really any hassles. And right after that combat encounter, we're thrown into a Predator encounter. There's not too much to talk about in this room, mainly because it is the first real Predator encounter of the game, and the enemies are dealt with really easily. At this point in the game, all the enemies are still really spread apart, and they're all basically lacking common sense. I cleared the room in about a minute, and after clearing the room, Batman tries to make me fail the challenge by giving himself an upgrade, and he makes the remote electrical charge. Although technically this really isn't an upgrade, it's just a gadget, so I'm still going to be using it throughout the run. While making it back to the main room, I take out one group of thugs, who are very easy to deal with, and I use the rec gun to break into Harley Quinn's office. While trying to climb up, I'm punted down by Mr. Hammer. He's this big guy with one arm because he's actually one half of a pair of conjoined twins. We'll meet his brother later, but for now we gotta deal with him. This is the first mini-boss of the game, and he's honestly not too difficult. All you gotta do is beat him up, and then jump over him whenever he's about to swing at you. Just rinse and repeat that until he's down, and that's the whole fight. After beating Mr. Hammer, we go up to find out that the Joker actually is dying. Batman even does a scan to double check, and yeah, he's cooked. But before Batman even knows what to do with himself... Yep, turns out it was a fake Joker. Batman gets knocked out by Harley Quinn, and when we wake up, we're tied to a chair, and there's no chair, and we're playing as Catwoman? Alright, now's a good time to explain that I am playing on the Return to Arkham version of the game, which means that my game comes pre-installed with all DLC, and said DLC is unremovable, including this Catwoman DLC. All the extra combat encounters and Predator encounters added in the Catwoman DLC are pretty easy. So from here on out, I just won't be mentioning the Catwoman DLC. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the Catwoman DLC, but when I'm just trying to play Batman Arkham City and then it cuts to a Catwoman segment, it gets a little bit annoying. Anyways, let's get back to Batman. Upon waking up as Batman, we do find out that the Joker is actually really sick. And we find out that he's putting all of his sick, nasty, gross blood inside of us. Joker also donated bags of his bloods to hospitals all over Gotham. So now the Joker wants him to make a cure so that he can cure himself. Batman also wrongfully assumes that this is the Protocol 10 plan, to which we get this reaction.
So that's Protocol 10. Poison Gotham. I expected more.
Protocol 10? Never heard of it. Hold tight. I'll be in touch!
Batman wakes up and gets a call from the Joker. Joker basically just tells him that he wants a cure. So Batman tracks down the one person he knows who can make a cure, Mr. Freeze. However, upon finding Freeze's lair, we find out that it's guarded by a bunch of Penguin's goons, on both the outside and the inside. Fortunately though, taking these guys out isn't that difficult. Although this Predator encounter does add the heart rate monitors, which basically just means that whenever I take somebody out, everyone's alerted. This encounter was still incredibly easy. The last two guys were really close to each other, so I just decided to smoke bomb them and knockout smash both of them. Taking out those last two guys makes the last guy surrender, so I interrogate him and ask him about Freeze's whereabouts. He tells me that Freeze is located in the museum as well as the rest of Penguin's gang. That means we're off to the museum for a cure. Upon heading to the museum, I'm introduced to a new enemy type. These are enemies with knives, and they're pretty easy to counter. After defeating the enemies, I try to hack my way into the museum, but it turns out we're actually being stopped by a bunch of jammers that Penguin set up. So now I gotta destroy all the jammers before I can enter the museum. There's a total of 3 jammers I need to destroy, so let's go through them. The first jammer's on the roof of the museum, and there's only a couple of guys guarding it. These guys really weren't much to deal with at all, and after taking them out, I disabled the first jammer. The second jammer is guarded by a bunch of people with guns, which ups the difficulty a little bit, but it was still pretty easy. So after taking out all 4 guys, I quickly disabled the second jammer and we're off to the third and final one. The final jammer is located underground in the subway system. It's also protected by another Predator section. This is probably one of my favorite Predator rooms in the entire game, and it's because you're able to knock people down with remote control batarangs very easily, getting very easy picks. There's not much to say about this Predator encounter, but it was pretty easy. And after taking out the room, I disabled the last jammer. And now it's time to head back to the museum and take out the Penguin. After hacking into the museum, we're able to walk straight through the gates. And after walking inside, we are greeted by the most lackluster jump scare. Yeah, unfortunately, it just doesn't hit the same after hundreds of hours. You know what does though? While inside, I deal with these groups of thugs consisting of one armored guy, who's very easily dealt with by using the rec gun. Anyways, after clearing the room, this cop tells me that there's a bunch more cops stuck inside, so it looks like we gotta save them too now. While continuing inside the museum, Penguin kills one cop right in front of me, then decides to send all of his goons after me in the hardest combat encounter of the museum. I'm pretty sure this is the most thug-heavy fight in the game. It's either this one or the fight in the madhouse later on in the game. Regardless though, this was still definitely the most difficult fight of the run so far, purely based on the fact of how many people there are and how little damage I'm doing. It was really this fight where I started to miss critical strikes, because wow, do you damage people slowly without them. Anyways, other than my constant yearning for critical strikes, I was able to clear the room with 1 HP. Although this is not the end of the fight. Penguin shoots a cage, which almost crushes Batman, but inside of the cage is a Titan henchman. Phase 2 of the fight starts with us beating up the Titan henchman. Thankfully in this game you can just run up to the Titan henchman and don't have to wait for them to charge. Phase 2 is honestly probably easier than Phase 1, purely for the fact that we get to ride around the Titan and deal a bunch of damage to the henchman. Really not much else to say about Phase 2 other than it was pretty easy. The next room is completely frozen over because Penguin has stolen Mr. Freeze's ice gun. Anyways, I save a cop from the ice. When I go back to traversing the ice, a massive shark pops out of the water and tries to eat me. Pretty typical for a museum. Anyways, I save 2 more cops, and then I'm off to save the big man himself, Mr. Freeze. Not before getting absolutely mollywopped by Mr. Sickle, the aforementioned brother of Mr. Hammer. This fight was honestly pretty easy compared to Mr. Hammer's fight, purely because there's just less people here, and it took him down pretty quickly, along with the rest of his gang. Anyways, after freeing Mr. Freeze, I very kindly ask him how to disable the ice gun. He doesn't respond, so I very politely take away his Kool-Aid supply until he tells me how. And then he very politely tells me that his suit has a built-in jammer to disable the ice gun in case anybody else gets their hands on it. Mr. Freeze's suit is being guarded by a Predator encounter as well as the final few cops. So I very quickly dispatch all of the guards. And I understand that all these guys are criminals and probably have little to no training on gun usage, but Penguin, you seriously gotta hire better people. Anyways, after saving the officers, I grabbed the jammer from Breeze's suit and started making my way over to Penguin. Not before getting jumped by Tiny one last time. Although Tiny was very easy to deal with, you just gotta beat him up a bunch and then he goes away. While I approach Penguin, I disrupt his gun, and then I give him the meanest uppercut ever seen in video game history. Unfortunately, Penguin has a contingency plan, and he blows up the entire floor below Batman. And underneath us is Solomon Grundy, who was teased earlier in the game, but now is the first time we're actually seeing him. Grundy's fight is pretty easy. All you gotta do is run up to these glowy spots on the floor and then apply explosive gel. Once all the explosive gel is detonated, you go up and beat him up, and that's the end of phase 1. Phase 2 is more of the same, except Grundy now gets extra moves, and he looks way cooler. Anyways, the fight ends the same, you just beat him up, and then that's the end of Grundy. Yo, Batman, I'd be very careful over there. I don't know, man, I just don't trust it. Yep, Grundy is still very much alive and kicking. He tries to take Batman with him, but we're just way better than him, so I'm not gonna let that slide. And the final phase is basically the same as the last 2 phases, except now Grundy is stationary and it relies solely on ranged attacks to get you. One last time, we finally beat up Grundy, and this time we actually do stop him. We tear at his heart, which I guess doesn't kill him because he's already dead. After taking out Grundy, Penguin decides he wants a shot at us, literally, but it's okay because me and Batman dodge it, and then Batman takes out the Penguin, finishing up the museum. Once Mr. Freeze is free, we ask him about making a cure, but he says that we need some enzyme that's been exposed to a healing factor for centuries. And we don't have that, so that means Batman is basically cooked. If only we had a way to get that enzyme.
Blasphemer! You're not worthy to speak of the great Ra's al Ghul.
Oh yeah, Ra's al Ghul. Well, now all we need to do is get a sample of Ra's al Ghul's blood and we'll have that cure in no time. To find Ra's al Ghul, I start by tracking his guard's blood, which she so kindly donated by breaking out of her display case. I then use said blood to track her throughout the city. Eventually, I do find her again, which leads us to this really cool chase sequence where we're just chasing her through the rooftops. I really like this part, and you don't get to do this in any other Arkham game. Shout out to all the Arkham City architects that made highly parkourable infrastructure. Anyways, after catching up to the guard, I place a tracker on her. I then get ambushed by like 2 other guards that just fall from the sky for some reason, but it's okay because Robin comes along and mollywops all of them. He also hand delivers me the line launcher, which is going to be real handy because it turns out the guard retreated to the sewers, where the line launcher comes in very handy. Up first, we get a combat encounter in the sewers. It was just your typical combat encounter, nothing special. I beat it very easily. After wandering into the sewers a little bit more, Batman low-key starts dying a little bit. That blood transfusion really did a number on Batman, so we got to get that cure quickly. I beat up a couple more guys right before a Predator encounter. They were, again, very easy. And then I got to the actual Predator encounter. I start off by taking down this guy with the jammer, and then I very poorly fail at taking this guy by grappling him off the ledge. And as I'm escaping, I almost get 200 pumped by some random dude. Don't know how I didn't die to that, but we're still kicking. Going back for round 2, I do finally successfully grapple somebody off. A little bit later, I grapple down another dude. Barely. I silent take down one more guy, glide kicked and knockout smashed this guy, and hit the last guy with a batarang ground takedown combo. After fighting a couple more ninjas, we made it to Wonder City, baby. There's a small puzzle where I have to scan these robots' heads in order to find out how to get inside. And after scanning all the heads, we find out that there's a secret little keyhole here. And thankfully, the key gets hand delivered straight to us. As Batman is heading to Ra's, he is really not doing so hot. He can barely keep himself up. He's even seeing a white light with his parents. He's also even seeing... Oh shoot, me! Yo, I didn't know we were that close, B-Man. Gosh, but he's also seeing the like and subscribe button. I think Batman wants you to like and subscribe as his final wish. As expected, though, the light is just a hallucination by Batman. But Batman is greeted by Talia al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul's daughter. She is kind of mad at him, though, and I'll explain why very quickly. Long story short, these two were sort of seeing each other. And Batman was promised eternal life if he married Talia al Ghul and became an assassin. There's one small issue with that, though, and it's that Batman doesn't kill. So now what we're gonna do is join the League of Assassins to get immortality. The first step to becoming an assassin is I have to pop a slurp juice to regain all my lost health. I then have to go through these trials, which basically just consists of me gliding through a couple courses and beating up a few guys. Which got me thinking, these courses have to be specifically designed for Batman, right? Because there's just no way a normal dude could cross all of these gaps. Anyways, I glide through a few more obstacles, beat up a couple more guys, glide through the final portal to leave the trials, and now I'm officially ready to become an assassin. Anyways, I find Ra's al Ghul in the next room over, and he's pretty excited that I'm ready to become an assassin, but then I tell him, nah bro, it was just a prank and I'm actually here because I need a sample of your blood for a cure.
What?
So now Talia's pretty mad at me, and Ra's is too because he takes a dip in his Baja Blast, and he comes out ready to scrap. So he fills the room with sand, and he teleports me to his boss arena. And now, I have to fight Ra's for a sample of his blood. Ra's boss fight basically just consists of a bunch of the sand people from the trials earlier, and once you clear these sand dudes, you get a giant Ra's al Ghul that you gotta deal with. He's pretty easy, all you gotta do is shoot at him with the rec gun, and after shooting him a few times, he falls back into the sand. After he resurfaces, you're prompted to spam counter until he gives up striking you, and at the end, you get a cool little cutscene that marks the end of phase 1. Phase 2 begins with Ra's disappearing back into the sand, then sending 20 dudes to just dogpile you. I'm not the biggest fan of this fight, but it has literally the coolest visuals in the entire game. Even when you're just randomly fighting the sand guys, you'll get these cool little flashes to show that you're actually still in the Lazarus room. Just like Phase 1, Phase 2 ends with a giant Ra's al Ghul popping out of the sand that you gotta take down. Really not much of a challenge, you just gotta keep dodging and shooting the ret gun. And after taking him down in big form, Ra's al Ghul jumps out of the sand to try to get you one last time, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this fight was pretty easy. So I beat him up one last time, and I snap him straight back into reality. Ra's tries to rage bait me by threatening to kill his daughter in front of me, which I respond to by hitting him with the 1-2 batarang combo, and knocking him clean out. Anyways, after dealing with Ra's, I snag a quick little sample of his blood, and now I'm off to Freeze so he can make me a cure. On my way to Freeze, I clear out a small combat encounter. This combat encounter was the exact same as the last 20, so it was pretty easy. On my way to Freeze, I also saved Quincy Sharp, the old warden from Arkham Asylum. The fact that he's in here arouses some suspicion, so I go and question him. And basically, long story short, Quincy opened up Arkham City for Dr. Strange, and in return, Strange would help Quincy win the Gotham City election. So basically, Quincy's as dirty as everybody else in this place. Cool story, bro, but now it's time for the best fight in the entire game. I head back to GCPD so Freeze can start making us a cure, and he whips up a badge real quick, which is good. But then he breaks one right in front of us because he is done taking orders, and that is not very good. Freeze wants us to find his wife before he'll hand over the cure. Batman, however, doesn't have any time for this, so he tries to grab the cure, to which, like, what did you think was gonna happen? And then we start the Mr. Freeze boss fight. This is probably the coldest take that anyone will ever have in the Arkham series, but obviously I think this is the best fight in the entire series. But I mean, how could you hate this fight? The fight basically makes you use everything at your disposal to take care of Freeze. There is no other fight in the Arkham series that makes you fully utilize the environment and your whole kit to take down a boss. Plus, there's also the added complexity for when every time you attack Freeze, he outright counters you by not letting you do that same attack again. And I remember the first time playing this game, having to figure out what all these different methods were. It genuinely made you feel so cool figuring it out one by one. Anyways, enough glazing. After playing the game a couple times, you do sort of get a muscle memory for how you should take down Freeze. My method's not gonna get any speedrun world records, but it gets the job done. Overall, this fight was pretty easy. Honestly, made me forget that I was doing a no upgrade run, considering you really don't even need upgrades during most of these boss fights. Anyways, after beating Freeze, I go ahead and grab the second cure, but it turns out it's missing. Yep, while me and Freeze were fighting, turns out Joker and his goons stole the other cure. And now we gotta head back to the steel mill and get our cure back. Right before we leave, Freeze gives us a brand new gadget that we gotta use to move through the steel mill. Right before entering the steel mill, I am greeted with a new Predator encounter, which was pretty easy. I basically just stayed up on this tower the whole time, grappling basically every single enemy down from that ledge. Look at this guy, he went flying. Besides grappling, I freeze blasted one guy, and then I smoke bombed the last two. I took the two guys out in the smoke bomb, and then I took out the last dude that I froze. This next part of traversing through the steel mill through the back is my least favorite part of the whole game. Basically, you have to just use the freeze blasts to just traverse on these water currents that push you really slowly. Yes, you can grapple to pull yourself forward, but it's still really slow. There's one combat encounter in this area, and that's it. It's not even that difficult. There's only 6 people, and one of them is armored. Anyways, I really hate this area. There's nothing special about it, so we're gonna skip and go to the next encounter. Anyway, starting off strong with the next area, we get a Predator encounter, which I immediately fail by failing to grapple this guy, then getting 200 pumped in the head. Dude, shotguns on hard mode are literally the most accurate interpretation of a shotgun I've ever seen in a video game. Thankfully, the second attempt goes way smoother. Smoother if you ignore the fact I almost got 200 pumped again. After that little hiccup, I knocked down 2 people with a remote control batarang. Then knocked down this one dude who's trying to get down, and another guy who's heading down these stairs. And as I'm heading to get the last guy, I get 200 pumped. Fuck. Third attempt, I choke out this guy, launch this guy off with a remote control batarang, horribly miss all of these guys going up the ladder, but I get one on the second try. Knock this dude off, and I somehow miss this guy because the batarang just phases through him. And apparently I was doing this too much because I get spotted, and I get gunned down. Alright, 4th attempt. Boom, you're gone. I hate you. Get shit on. Freeze blast. Honestly, just a skill issue. After beating that Predator encounter, we're basically thrown straight into another combat encounter, where we see Joker looking good as new. Man, that cure did wonders on him. Anyways, the combat encounter starts with a one-on-one with a Joker, although he's pretty easy. And after taking down the Joker, he calls in what I'm pretty sure are the rest of his thugs left in Arkham City, because this fight is absolutely jam-packed with thugs. In my opinion, this is definitely the hardest fight in all of Arkham City, purely because of the amount of thugs that they throw at you. You can kind of get overwhelmed at sometimes, especially when the fight decides to throw in Mr. Hammer and the Titan. I was definitely struggling a little bit on this fight. Besides critical strikes, this fight really made me miss blade takedowns. Not being able to get free picks on people using knives really slowed down the fight, and not even just blade takedowns, but other abilities like the multi-ground takedown just made fights go so much quicker, and I genuinely never really noticed how upgrade dependent I was in Arkham City combat. Anyways, besides the fight taking a really long time, I was able to beat it on my second try, but the fact that I couldn't beat it on my first try made me really angry, so I had to teach the Joker a lesson. Anyways, after taking out my frustrations on the Joker, I took out the last thug, and then I took out the Joker, ending the fight. And with beating the Joker, we beat the game. Good job, Batman. Let's get out of here. Batman is now pinned under rubble, and right before the Joker tries to kill him, Talia comes on out of nowhere and promises Joker the gift of immortality. Joker obviously accepts the offer, and right before leaving with Talia, Talia puts a tracker on herself so we're able to find her, which I guess means she never did want to give Joker immortality. Who would? Upon waking up, Batman is saved by Catwoman, and after leaving the steel mill, we find Protocol 10 in full action, and it's revealed that Protocol 10 was a plan to execute every single inmate in Arkham City. And now we gotta stop it. First, we start by scanning these helicopters to find the master controls, and once we find the master controls, we very politely borrow the code so we can start breaking into Wonder Tower. Anyways, I hack my way in, and I'm greeted by the first combat encounter of Wonder Tower. This is just one of the coolest scenes to me in the whole game. I love how while Strange is monologuing, you're getting surrounded by all these thugs, while Batman is just completely aura-forming. Anyways, as far as combat encounters go, this one's pretty easy. Just ignore the fact that I was at 1 HP. Even though I did almost die, I did beat on my first try. Anyways, after that combat encounter, we're thrown right into another Predator encounter, which, don't worry, I did struggle on this one. I start by taking down this guy, I then grappled this guy down, followed by me trying to escape. I then tried to pick off the sniper, but some guy walking up the stairs saw me, and then I somehow escaped unharmed. I somehow circled back to take out the sniper, but unfortunately, this one across saw me. I don't even know what I was trying to do here. He was way too far to grapple off. And while trying to escape, I got killed by a sniper rifle. Attempt 2, I grappled off this one guy, but as I was escaping, this other person with a shotgun saw me, and let's just say I didn't make it very far. Yeah, I don't really know what happened here, but I was struggling a lot on this encounter. So instead of showing you all my runs, because that would literally take forever, I'm just gonna show you my last successful run. I start off by freeze blasting one guy on the bridge, do a silent takedown on this guy. I then use my line launcher to take down both of these guys at the same time. And while still using the line launcher, I redirect myself to take down the guy I froze from earlier. While everyone's investigating the bodies, I take out one more sniper, I then take out one more guy with a stealth takedown, silent takedown one more sniper, and then grapple takedown the last guy. After beating the encounter, I almost die to a mine, which I'm not even gonna lie, I think would have sent me into a manic breakdown if that happened. Anyways, I take the elevator up, and waiting for the top are some thugs. Even though the mine left me at 1 HP, this fight was very easy. Anyways, after making it to the top of the tower, we are met with the last Predator encounter of the game, which I'm not gonna lie, got off to a little bit of a rocky start when this guy saw me choking out his friend right in front of him. But I was able to hide long enough for all the crowds to disperse, and I took out one more guy. I then froze one guy for later, I then stealth take down this dude, and then I took out his friend when he came over to investigate, which then left the frozen guy, which I took out, and then it was time to confront Strange.
I have saved Gotham.
Batman just has such a way with words. Anyways, we head on in there and deactivate Protocol 10. And as Dr. Strange is telling me how much of a savior he is, he gets stabbed in the back. Turns out the whole time he was actually working with Ra's al Ghul. And the whole time Protocol 10 was Ra's al Ghul's plan because he wanted to cleanse the world of evil. Ra's al Ghul basically just used Dr. Strange as a pawn, and in the end it didn't even really work. Strange, however, comes prepared and blows up the whole tower. After blowing up the whole tower, Batman tries to save Ra's al Ghul, but unfortunately I think Ra's al Ghul has his own plans, because right when Batman tries to save him, he tries to take the both of them out but fails miserably. After we reach the ground, we find out that Joker actually has Talia at the Monarch Theater. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wrap this up. After making our way to the Monarch Theater, we find that Joker has Talia held captive. Joker is threatening to kill Talia, but right before he does, Talia breaks free and, oh shoot, she just kills the Joker. Except, not really. We were very subtly teased at the beginning of the game that Joker was not working alone. There were two Jokers the entire time.
Talia!
I'm sorry, beloved.
Yep, turns out Joker was still sick the whole time and never got the cure. But wait a minute, if Joker was sick the whole time, then who's the other Joker?
Ladies and gentlemen, for one night only, standing in for yours truly, and doing a damn fine job of it, I give you Clayface.
Alright, now when I was a wee little lad, I already played this game knowing that Clayface was in it, so I honestly have no idea how this twist felt for people playing it the first time. But if any of y'all did play without getting it spoiled, tell me how it felt, because I'm genuinely curious what people's reactions were. Anyways, the Clayface fight is pretty easy. All you gotta do is quick throw freeze blasts at him, and get in some big damage when he rolls into these explosives. After doing enough damage, Batman's able to steal the sword from him, and slice him up. Then you gotta repeat the process one more time, and after slicing him up for good this time, we're on to phase 2. It starts by Joker blowing up the entire floor, which also leads to Batman almost dying to the sword immediately after falling. It also reveals that the Monarch Theater is directly above the Lazarus Pit. Anyways, phase 2 is just as easy as phase 1. All you gotta do is slice up these little clay guys that Clayface summons. And once Clayface pops up, you gotta throw a freeze blast in his mouth and repeat that over and over again until he's done. And after throwing in the last freeze blast, we get a little cutscene. Then after the fact, we run up to grab the vial from Clayface. Then I get to say that I beat Arkham City without using any upgrades. To wrap things up, Batman takes the cure, and the Joker stabs Batman because he was trying to get the cure, causing Batman to drop the cure, which leaves Joker without a cure to cure himself, which also leads to this absolute masterclass in writing.
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
That actually is pretty funny.
Anyways, the Joker dies without his cure, which is very crazy when you think about it because this is only the second game in the series. But that was Arkham City without any upgrades. It was honestly a lot easier than Arkham Asylum, and I think that was just because when I played Arkham Asylum I was pretty rusty and haven't played an Arkham game in a while. Overall though, I do recommend trying it, especially during Predator encounters when you get to be a little more creative on how you take out thugs. Also, a huge thank you to you guys for the support of the last Batman video. I think we got to like 5,000 views in 3 days, which is absolutely nuts for me. I'm really thankful that you guys actually watch and enjoy these videos. Anyways, that's all I've got for now, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye, guys.